Hi, this is BJ Fadum. I'm on the board of directors for the Billy DeFrank Center, and I'd like to welcome everybody. We're going to talk a little bit today about gender marker and name changes within the LGBTQ community. So with us today to explain how that's done in the state of California is Toby Adams, an attorney that's been an attorney for many, many years and has been devoting much of her practice, if not all, to helping those of us in the LGBT community with gender marker, name changes, and so forth. So, Toby, welcome.
Nice to see you, BJ.
Good to see you. So, first of all, when we talk about gender marker changes, what is that in California?
So there are multiple different kinds of identification that people carry that have gender markers either on them or related to them. And for some of those, you actually need to get a court order. In fact, for most of them, you need to get a court order in order to change your name or your gender or your name and gender. So the main types of ID that I talk to my clients about are your driver's license, which you get in the state that you live in under state law, your birth certificate, which would be in the state that you were born in, which may not be the same, under the state law of that state, and then your passport and your social security records, both of which are under federal law. So the first step is to get the court-ordered name change in California.
So with that is, how do we do that in California? What is the process to start with the gender marker and name change?
So in California, there are documents that you fill out. They're called judicial council forms. And there is a link that you can go to on the California State Court website, or you can just Google California court name change. There's a different process for if you're changing just your name, just your gender, or both your name and your gender. But an important thing to know is that, unlike in the past, prior to 2019, you do not have to provide any kind of a doctor's letter for a gender marker change. And you do not have to go to a hearing except for in very rare circumstances, like, for instance, for someone under the age of 18, if they have a living parent who doesn't sign the petition and files objections. So in almost all cases, there is no hearing required.
So you could get your gender marker changed in California without having any surgical work done at all, or any procedures?
Absolutely. It's no longer required any kind of medical treatment at all. It is merely your own affirmation that this is your gender.
So that also means you don't have to go through hormone therapy. You don't have to go through mental health therapy or anything like that, like it used to be, to qualify to change your gender.
Right. And that was a real barrier for a lot of people. The cost, the expense, the difficulty with getting, having medical, even if it's just a letter from a doctor saying that this is your gender, requires finding a doctor and getting to a doctor and paying for a visit to have that doctor fill out paperwork that is unnecessary.
And so also in California, then, we can have our gender changed to male, female, and isn't there a third option in California?
Yes, there has been for over a year now the ability to do a non-binary as a gender marker, and that is available in the court order. It is also available on California driver's license, And in fact, you don't need a court order to change just your gender on your California driver's license. You merely fill out the right form with the Department of Motor Vehicles and check the box for the appropriate gender for you. However, you do need a court order if you're having a name change. And in fact, not only do you need a court order, but the way things have changed with the DMV recently, you actually must change your legal name with the Social Security Administration before changing it with the Department of Motor Vehicles, because they check. This is something I found out through experience, that they run a check against your Social Security records, and if the name does not match, they will not provide you with a driver's license without that.
So you go ahead, you want to change your gender, male, female, or non-binary, right?
Yes.
In California. And then you fill out these forms. You also, let's say you also want to change your name at the same time, but you don't have to.
Right.
There's some people that have neutral names that I guess they don't need to change the name and want to keep the same name. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's the three different steps. There's the process for just your name, process for name and gender, or process for just your gender. And it's important to know that if someone were changing their name and it had nothing to do with their gender identity, they would still have to have that published. But if you are changing your name, even if it's just your name change, and if it has to do with your gender identity, if you're changing your name because of your gender, you do not have to publish it.
But if you're just changing your name because you want to change your name, you still have to publish.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And what do we mean by when we say publish?
So the publication, and actually, I mean, it's not really relevant to this particular topic because we're really talking about people going through gender change. But it used to be that you had to fill out a form that was in order to show cause and actually get it published in the newspaper. That is no longer required for any name change that has to do with the gender change, whether or not it's happening at the exact same time or not.
And that's important for everybody to know because it stopped a lot of people from changing their gender and getting the marker.
Yes, it does, and it's a safety issue, and it's also a respect and privacy issue. So the way that the name change, let's say as an example, we're doing a name and a gender change. I would fill out all of the correct paperwork. You take it down to the court, or in many cases, a lot of counties are doing entirely electronic filing. And you file the paperwork and you'll get back a filed copy, and you wait until the date that they say it will be available. And on that date, you can pick up, or in some cases, because of the current state of the pandemic, they will mail you your decree. It's very important to make sure at that point that you get certified copies of the decree, and that's an extra cost. So there are costs involved. There's a fee for filing, which in almost all counties is $435. San Francisco and LA are different. There is fee waiver available. So if you are somebody who qualifies for a fee waiver due to low income or disability, you can get a fee waiver and not pay that. And there's also the cost of getting certified copies, which you will need in order to apply for the new birth certificate, etc.
How many certified copies would you recommend people requesting?
It depends on the situation. Like if they're going to get a passport, they would want one for that. I recommend having one for the Department of Motor Vehicles, especially since now a lot of things are being done by mail. Social Security is now doing everything right now by mail. Birth certificate, you'll want one for. Usually things like your bank or your school, they usually won't require a certified copy. Usually 3 is enough for most people.
So you talked about the birth certificate. So
Yeah.
once a gender marker is changed, can you get a new birth certificate?
In most states, you can. In California, for instance, if you were born in California, there's a Form VS-24 that you file for a new birth certificate, and California will change your birth certificate and give you a new birth certificate with your new name and gender.
So what state do you go to? Can everybody that gets their gender marker changed, can they just get a new birth certificate in California?
No, you have to be born in California. So the change on your birth certificate has to be in the state that you were born in. So most states, you can now change your birth certificate to your appropriate gender. Some states, you can change your birth certificate to non-binary, but many of them, you only have the choice of male or female. And there are a few states like Ohio, for instance, where you cannot change your birth certificate at all. So it depends where you were born.
So you have to go check with the state where you were born to see what their laws are.
Yes, and I recommend the way to do that is to go to the National Center for Transgender Equality website. They have excellent instructions on all the states. So if you go to the NCTE website and look for under the identification, you just select your state and it will give you the instructions. They're very good at that organization at keeping those instructions up to date. And also they have the instructions there for the federal Social Security and passport rules.
So if you go, so wanting to get a new birth certificate, you go to the state where you were born.
Yes.
If you can't get a new birth certificate, on some states, do they give an amended birth certificate as opposed to a brand new one?
Yes, it depends state by state.
Okay, and some and as you said in Ohio, some states you just can't at this stage still.
Correct.
Okay, and so if you were born in any of those states, you can change your gender marker for. You can still do it for your passport, can't you?
Yes. Yes.
And for all your other documents, but you're just not going to get a birth certificate until that state changes their laws.
Right, and I literally things are changing from day to day in states and in agencies. By the time this video has gone live, it's possible that what I'm saying won't be true in the federal government, but right now you cannot get non-binary with the Social Security Administration. You cannot get non-binary on your passport, but that may have changed by the time this video goes live. So it's always important to check and see what the current state of the law is, as far as specifically in terms of non-binary markers being available. A few years ago that wasn't available anywhere, and now it's available in more than in probably half the states already.
Great. Toby, thank you so much. I appreciate your help and I appreciate the information. And for those of you still that have watched this video, please, you can contact Toby or you can contact the National Transgender Legal. Again, can you give?
The National Center for Transgender Equality is an organization that I mentioned during this presentation because they keep very good instructions on their website on a state-by-state basis for all the states on how to do this.
Great. Thank you, Toby.
Thank you for inviting me.